the forgotten part of the health system over many years, and we need to see that changed dramatically, because the reality on the ground is that children are being delayed in terms of being assessed, and of course that is leading to even greater dental decay or indeed delayed orthodontic treatment.
Former governor of Mountjoy Prison says jailing for minor crimes is driving a broken prison system to breaking point. He warns overcrowding will only worsen unless sentencing policies change. The comments come as prison numbers hit 5,528, nearly 860 over capacity, with hundreds of inmates now sleeping on floors. John Lonergan says he saw even worse overcrowding in the 80s, but argues that simply adding more beds is a waste of time.
We could boost our community support services where many more prisoners could be put on community type work. But it's never popular to do that, because we hear so much publicity and we listen to so many people advocating for more punishment, longer sentences, and when that team is there, what you need is strong political leadership to contest it, but we don't have that.
Summer heat is not returning anytime soon, according to one weather expert. Rain warnings have just lifted around the country after parts of the east and north were battered with heavy downpours overnight. While drier conditions are forecast for the rest of the week, there's still no sign of the hot conditions making a return. However, Alan O'Reilly from Carlow Weather says he's still hopeful for August. And that's your news for now.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Less Howie, more ciao bella. With Ryanair's low-fare flights to Rome, Milan or Pisa.
Becoming largely dry as any lingering rain in the northeast clears, leaving clear spells and isolated showers. Lowest temperatures 11 to 14 degrees and light west to northwesterly winds. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
Hello there and welcome along to Monday night's Off the Ball, the night after one of the most extraordinary halves of hurling we have ever seen. We're going to try and make sense of what happened yesterday afternoon on the show over the next 3 hours. We're going to have Richie Hogan with us after 8 o'clock for a proper debrief on the 2025 All-Ireland Hurling Final. In this first hour, we're going to hear from John McGrath, from Dar McCarthy, from Willie Connors, from Len Gaynor, loads of Tipperary voices. Tommy Rooney's been a busy man this afternoon to try and capture all of that for us. And then later tonight, we will be pivoting away to a bit of rugby, Monday Night Rugby at 9 with Mike Sherry. And also, Lawrence Donegan will talk to us about Scotty Scheffler tearing up Royal Portrush, inviting all of the golfing comparisons you could possibly imagine this morning and securing his first Open Championship. Our number is 0879 180 180 if you want to drop us a WhatsApp. Stephen Doyle's bumper Monday news round coming in just a minute. Hello, Stephen.
Good evening, Owen.
And Michael McCarthy is here in studio. Hello, Mick.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So, honest answers only here. There's a bit of a gift to you here where you can allow yourself to be a little bit embarrassed, a little bit humiliated by this. Honest answers only. 4:15 yesterday afternoon. What are you thinking? What are you typing into your WhatsApp groups? Half-time, Cork up by 6. What are you saying?
Honestly, you're going to make me sound like I'm an asshole here, but I didn't think the game was over. I thought Tip were living with them. I thought the Barrett goal at half-time was a bit of a killer, but I didn't think it ended the game. It didn't feel like a 6-point game, and I think that's why I think it felt like, oh, Cork could kick on from here. And I think we'll get into all the details and so on, but I think that Patrick Horgan free, like if it goes to 7 and you can kind of see them kicking on, maybe, but the fact that he missed that, you immediately kind of went, oh, this is like, Tip need to make sure that, like, they're not giving away too many of these because there's a chance here. I have to say I didn't think it was over. It was a very even first half.
Yeah, I thought I didn't either. And something, I'll go back to the semi-final. As you know, I was up in the hills that day when Dublin played Cork. And I was looking at that Cork team and their shape and how they were playing. There was a lot of gaps, there's a lot of holes in the pitch, and you're kind of thinking, like, if Dublin, listen, I'm not knocking Dublin here because I thought Dublin put in one of the best performances of the year to beat Limerick. But you felt that if a better performing team had been playing Cork that day, they could have beat them. And it was the fact that Dublin were so naive and tactically not as astute as, say, a Tipperary or a Kilkenny or whatever, that they lost that game. So I kind of went into the final thinking Tipperary can definitely win this. I didn't think it was as one-sided as it was being made out in the build-up to it. So looking at the game yesterday at half time, and as well, you probably picked up on this as well, Mick. I thought Tip's touch was off in that first half. Like they just weren't playing as well as we know they could play. And you were thinking, if they go into the dressing room at half time and say that to each other, say, lads, we need to pull it together here, that they definitely could play better in that second half.
Well, see, so that's the thing. Like, if you're looking at that first half without knowing what is about to happen next, and you're saying to yourself, their touch is off, they're very inaccurate, they really have missed a lot of opportunities here. The automatic conclusion is you were massive underdogs for this game. You are now 6 points down. You have missed your chance for this to be a close game. Honestly, what I said, and the WhatsApp groups have evidence of this, I said it's likely over, but Tip are pig ignorant. And I'll say that to Richie again later. I mean that as such a compliment. And it was just the sight of what was happening down the tunnel at halftime. Not a massive flashpoint, but it just kind of gave me a little bit of a reminder. You know, Tip are not going to back down here, and they have had the opportunities in the first half. So there's just that little inkling of hope that we might have a contest now. Nobody saw what was about to happen.
Nobody thought they were going to win the second half by 21 points and that Cork would go in at half-time at 116 and finish the game at 118. Because, anyone claims that is a lunatic. But your point about their belligerence, let's give it a nicer word, is kind of similar to what I was going to counter you with when you were saying if Tip come in as underdogs, their touch isn't there and they're not accurate. They were so up for it. And that's what you could really feel, is that hunger is this thing that people talk about, and it's often not the right word in hurling, but it is a real measure in a way that statisticians don't really like, right? But it is true. It is everyone who's followed the game, everyone who's played the game understands it. And Tip, I thought, were hitting the man and the ball at 100 miles an hour from minute one, and I didn't think Cork matched that ferocity. And that's why I thought Tip were still in it.
There was a moment as well after around 49, 50 minutes where Seamus Harnedy hits this very bad wide. And watching this on television, I wasn't there yesterday, watching this on television, you could actually hear some groans in the stadium. And I was like, oh my God, imagine if this is actually going to happen. Because I didn't really believe at a moment before that Cork were going to lose this game. I thought that Tip would eradicate the goal straight away. And then they might actually fade out as the half goes on and Cork will reassert their dominance. But at that moment, when you started to hear the crowd getting a little bit tetchy about what was happening, you're like, oh my God, this thing is actually on. And
it was that quick. It was that quick that it happened. And I have to say, it was possibly even earlier for me. I've never seen a collapse like it. I've never seen a turnaround like it. So much so that, and it's not to be playing Nostradamus or anything like that. If you'd asked me at halftime, I would have said Cork would win the game. I just didn't think it was over. But there was a point where Cork were leading by a point and Tip were so on top that I said to my wife, this game's over. And she said, don't be so ridiculous. Look at the scoreboard, and in every other game, she'd have been dead right. People go on bursts, they go on everything. And it was literally, the reason I remember it so clearly is because the ball was batted down to John McGrath, who took the goal, and Tip went ahead and never relinquished lead immediately as that happened. And, I genuinely felt that way. I just didn't think there was any way back for Cork, because Tip had stepped it up in a way so much that it was like a kind of a team who were, you know the way you see it sometimes maybe when you play a team at a lower level and they stick with them for the first half or so on, and then they step it up that little bit and the other team just have no answer. Cork had no answer. It was like as if they weren't on Tip's level. Now, I don't think that's true in a general sense, but yesterday it was like as if they weren't on the same level as a hurling team as them.
I think they're, and I don't think it was said too much on the Sunday game. I don't think it was said at all, really. Because I suppose you don't want to be seen as knocking the players. And I don't want to sound like I'm knocking the players from Cork either, because they went into that game with such a huge amount of pressure on them. It was massive. And, the supporters really did get carried away, didn't they, over the last few weeks? And the pressure on them from that feeding into that panel, there's no way they can avoid it. There's no way they were protected from that. And I think that definitely contributed to what was a mental collapse. They mentally collapsed in the game. It was every mistake that was made, it was just having a knock-on effect throughout the team. And it was just I really hope just making so many mistakes. And
I really hope that's not the reason, or that's not why they look at it, because the other way of looking at what being carried away or hype is just unbelievable support. And a team that really got, a county that got behind their players and got behind the team. And for that to be looked at, and I'm not saying it is by the Cork players or anything like that as this sort of like, we have to hide from the hype, we have to be anti, everything, play everything down. I just think it would be to the detriment of the GA in general if that's the case, because I actually liked that Cork. I couldn't see one thing wrong with what the Cork public did over the last month or two.
The one thing I would say on that is that it's the easiest cliche in the world to throw out to compare any sort of collapse with Mayo. Mayo is a label that people throw out at anybody. If they've lost consecutive finals or if they've lost consecutive big games, Mayo gets thrown out. But if you go back through the last 20 years of Cork, they lose the 06 final to one of the greatest teams of all time. No shame in that. 2013, drawn game, losing a replay to Clare. No shame in that. 2021, again, hammered, but to one of the greatest teams of all time. No shame in that. Last year, lose a classic to Clare. No shame in that. This is the year where they've entered the hurt locker. This is where you're like, okay, this is equatable to what Mayo have experienced year after year after year, particularly when they got to the 2010s. And really, there's not really a Mayo comparison except for maybe a couple in the 2000s where they get absolutely annihilated. But they weren't favourites in those games and they weren't ahead by 6 points in those games. So this is actually out on an island in terms of a Gaelic Games sporting collapse, I would argue.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with that. And just like on the supporters thing as well, I'm not saying Cork, like every team bus that goes to Croke Park on final day goes into the belly of Croke Park underneath the stand, and the team gets off and goes into the dressing room. I don't know if you saw a colleague of ours who covers Tipperary hurling, Stephen Gleeson, put up a video ahead of throw-in yesterday, and the Tipperary team bus pulled up outside Croke Park. So they had to walk through all the Tipperary supporters in under the stand.
Didn't realise that.
Into the dressing rooms. It's a brilliant video, and the Tip supporters are all out cheering the players off the bus. Now that's, to me, that, like, that's brilliant. Like, the players feeding off that kind of support, like Tipperary. Tipperary supporters were definitely outnumbered there yesterday. They weren't being hyped up as much, I don't think, by their own supporters. And look, I'm not trying to blame the supporters here, but that is one aspect of the amount of hype that was going on around Cork for the last couple of weeks. Sorry, this is like pre-semi-final. This has been gathering pace for weeks now.
I would argue for 15 months since last summer that this movement had kind of taken off, and it felt like we were entering a coronation at the weekend. And that was maybe my opinion. It was my opinion that they would win the game, so therefore, yes, it was a coronation. And I think it was a nationwide thing as much as a Cork thing. And look, I don't know what the alternative is here, that, Cork don't try and hoover up all the tickets. They don't try and support their team. They don't lose their minds.
I really think that. I really think we have to learn how to deal with that stuff, as opposed to thinking supporters shouldn't kind of get carried away and get into a, let them do what they want, almost. Like having a frenzy and a support and excitement around the games is what it's all about. Like us all trying to play everything down and taking Owen's lads as the kind of way to go doesn't really do anyone any help.
Anyway, we're not catching strays today.
I probably should clarify.
We'll wait till tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm not saying like listen, hype is great and the support around the team is great and all that. It was probably, and Owen's probably put in better words there, but it was the fact that the supporters, you got a sense from the supporters that it was a coronation. It was a done deal. They just had to go out and play the match and they were going to be crowned All-Ireland champions. That was the kind of sense you got from everybody in the build-up to the game.
Yeah. And it's funny because these are like amateur players and they're not going to their own homecoming tonight and so on. They cancelled it, and you can only imagine the hurt. So I don't have any interest in kind of like rubbing in or declaring their careers a certain way or their characters or anything like that. But it is fascinating to know to think about what happened, and I'd love to hear more about it over time, and maybe in the coming months, and maybe it's even years, maybe it's at the end of careers and books and everything like that we kind of get more of a sense of it. Or maybe we never know. Maybe nobody, including those players and management, know what happened.
You were carrying the story in your bulletin earlier, Stevo, that there is no homecoming for the losing team tonight.
Yeah.
Like that's a very common thing, that every losing team does it. So that just shows the level of hurt that this team and management are
I've actually found out some information in the time being, or subsequently, that from a very good source, that it was decided before the final that if they lost, they were going to cancel the homecoming.
Fair enough.
Which
so
is
it wasn't actually to do
because
with the
they didn't want to put them through the same thing as last year. Now, personally, my own point of view there would be, I think they should have went ahead with it, because supporters, they will, I'd say the majority of the supporters will be well-meaning and will want to go down Cork after that final, even though they were beaten. And I think they'd want to show support for the players and get out there for them. And I can understand why the players might want to face them, but better to face them now than go through an autumn and winter of just maybe ducking and diving. You know, just go out there and face and just, you know, see the support that you have out there. You know, I think it was a bad decision to cancel it.
We will play a bit of a tip audio shortly, but just kind of one final point on Cork before we go there. Like, is there a danger, given how spectacular the second half was yesterday, that the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater just a little bit here? Like, it does feel that the conversation is fairly fatalistic with Cork at the moment, that this is the end of their quest, that massive change now needs to happen. Like, I'm not necessarily sure that like a trigger-happy decision should be made down in Cork with regards to the personnel on the sideline or on the pitch. No. Like, there's no transfer market in Gaelic games. You have to kind of work with the same deck of cards that's always been there. I'm sure they'll be able to unearth a couple of gems in the club scene or from the underage teams, and they'll try and regenerate the team in the best way they can next year. But I think priority number one for Cork has to be to try and mend the psychological damage of yesterday on the players that are still going to be around next year, which is the vast majority of them. Yeah. And I also think that Pat Ryan has earned the right to make his own mind up with regards to whether or not he stays on next year as well. So I could see a world where we start next year with a very similar squad, with the same management team, and they just need to...
And they can win All-Ireland.
Yeah.
They absolutely can, because they're good enough too, but I also don't think that they were far and away the best team even leading into this game. I think like, you know, there was obviously the gimmick of paying off on them in April or whatever it was, you know, to win the All-Ireland. That was nonsense. But even beyond that, like just some of the conversations around that coronated them was too early. You look back at the championship season, they capitulated against Clare, should have lost that game. There was a bit of extra time given for them to get their free in and get the draw, because they'd been up by like 12 points or whatever. They played against Tipperary, the game was over after 10 minutes. They were absolutely hammered by Limerick, you know, that first day. And then obviously they played well against Limerick. They were brilliant, I thought, in the Munster final. And I came on here and talked about how good they were and how much they stifled Limerick. But you look at Limerick, you know, what happened against Dublin and so on, and where Limerick. And also an awful lot of extra time played in the second half of extra time in that game. I think there was 4 minutes played in a 10-minute half. Yeah. Think about that in context. Add that to a 35-minute half. You know, like that was a bit, you know, they easily could have and probably should have lost that game. So it's like, how great were Cork? Do you know what I mean? Now, what Cork did was do what they did against Dublin, and it wasn't just Dublin. They did it against Tip. They did it in the first half against Clare. Cork are electric. They're this team that can go on these bursts, the movement and so on. They can get the 3 goals. I've been worried about that since early in 2024. This isn't just a this year thing, but that doesn't mean they're going to win every game. They can't do that all the time.
No.
So I think what happened in the second half is unique, but the idea that Cork didn't win the All-Ireland this year shouldn't mean that it's day one, let's start again.
Yeah.
They were never that far ahead.
And the fact of the matter is that Tip got annihilated in a game this year and won the All-Ireland. Cork got annihilated in a game this year, made the All-Ireland, then got annihilated in a second game this year, which doesn't bode well. But I don't know, hurling is a mad game. Sometimes crazy things happen. Now, nothing as crazy as the second half yesterday has happened in a long time in hurling, and it is out on its own. And there will need to be a deep dive from a Cork perspective as to what on earth happened. But I do think there's a danger of overreacting in terms of your decisions and who you cull and who exactly pays the price for it. I'm sure a head or two will roll in terms of playing personnel, but I would suggest that people kind of wait a couple of months before actually deciding on what they're going to do. Will we play a couple of bits of audio? We might play some John McGrath here, first of all. So 2 goals and a point yesterday, as well as winning the penalty. 9 goals in the championship overall. So Tommy Rooney met him at the team hotel out in Malahide this morning. In his wildest dreams, did he ever see this coming?
I think a lot of people would be lying if you said you saw it coming. I suppose you're hoping in a lot of ways, and in the background you definitely have a belief, and you know the ability is there, I suppose, but it would have been hard to say you saw this coming after the last couple of years. I suppose a lot of our focus early on in the year was really about we wanted to get back competing, and like I suppose when you do that, then you kind of have to see where it takes you, and yeah, certainly, and I'd say even in our wildest dreams you wouldn't have dreamt up yesterday's result really, but unbelievable. Yeah.
Talk to me about yourself. Like, you had an unbelievable year with the club last year in the winter. You start every championship game Did you expect that this year, like being part of that? I know Noel is coming on in a lot of games. Did you expect to be a starter at 14 and to do what you did?
I was actually just thinking it even there last night and this morning. Like, I played a handful of league games, came on in a couple of the league games, started one league game, didn't play the league final any shape or form.
What happened? Was it that goal in the Limerick game that just sparked your summer?
Yeah, I suppose, look, the lads probably took a little bit of a chance on me in the first round championship, and like that, I suppose you get a little bit of luck, little bit of breaks, I suppose, and the few goals in that game probably gave me huge confidence in that to drive on for the rest of the year then.
Last one, because you got to hop into a car here into town. The goals yesterday, right? I watching you score a goal against Kilkenny in an All-Ireland final. You had a bit of time and a bit of space to control that ball on the ground and do it. Like it's in the head as well, some of this, John. Like staying in the game and being ready for those moments.
100%. You're only really getting half chances a lot of the time at this level, and when they arrive, you have to take them, or it just, like, you don't get a second. Like, it's gone from you if you don't take them. So look, I suppose maybe the bit of experience and that over the years stands to you in moments like that, because while a few people remarked it looked calm in what I was doing, the head was going 90, and you just kind of have to take a breath and get going again.
When the ball's in the air from Owen Connolly, Tommy Walsh nudged me in the press box and said, "Look at John McGrath." It was like slow motion. Was it slow motion in your head?
I'm trying to even remember it there now, but there was one or two little balls like that were kind of dropping short during the game. Just probably maybe the way the wind was and that, and there was a couple of half opportunities there. Jason had one in the first half disallowed, so yeah, just got the nudge on it and in over the line.
Well, there's a couple of boys nudging you to get into the car here. John McGrath, thanks for your time, appreciate it, and well done.
Thanks, Howie.
John McGrath yesterday was like Ronaldo at the 2002 World Cup for Brazil, just lethal. Everything he touched just led to an explosive return. My favourite moment is actually the catch before the penalty and the work he did for the penalty.
I love a low catch.
Yeah.
I love a low catch, because the amount you have to keep your eye on the ball to do that is just amazing.
Like it's probably a bit of a hipster choice given the goal. The second goal is just going to go down in infamy from a Cork perspective, given how
Patrick Collins should have dealt with both goal 1 and goal 3, but it doesn't take away from McGrath at all.
Genius, yeah.
The second goal, I don't know, growing up, right, it's so funny how different the game is, but when I was hearing stories about, the Cork 4-in-a-row team in the 70s and stuff like that, it was that sort of supreme skill in hurling was the overhead, doubling on the ball, basically, as what it was called. And to see a goal like that, to see two in the same game, and I know Jason Ford's was a square ball and disallowed, is amazing, because you just don't see that kind of hurling anymore. But the fact that you don't see it and that these guys are so skillful to still be able to do it is unbelievable. It was just class from McGrath. McGrath was a player who, I know he's had his injury issues and so on, but if you think of, I was with Richie on, I think you were off, I was talking to him after the Cork Limerick game, or the Tip Limerick game at the start of the year, and we were like, God, if we get this John McGrath again, this is 2016, 2019 John McGrath that we didn't think existed anymore. And he was kind of like, yeah, well, he took his goals well, but it's early yet, kind of thing, and for that all season, just to be that linchpin full forward, we didn't think that this player was still there for Tipperary, what I mean? So it's unbelievable the year he's had.
The ice in his veins, though, for that first goal.
Yes. He's just saying it there, I wasn't that cool. But it's in the blood almost, isn't it? To just
it was
calm,
unbelievable. I just, your team is up against Cork, and you're in front of the canal end, baying Cork mob behind the goal, and just to, it was just incredible composure. It really was incredible composure. Brilliant performance.
Let's bring you some more of Tommy's trip out to Malahide earlier. So 19-year-old Dar McCarthy, a cool 113 yesterday. Probably player under the most pressure, obviously, after the red card in the semi-final, the red card the first day out against Cork as well, and a shaky display, let's not forget, in the semi-final as well, when he was taken off the freeze eventually. So he was imperious yesterday, and he talked to Tommy this morning, who ended up getting 2 interviews for the price of 1.
Thrilled to be joined by All-Ireland winner, Tipperary, Dar McCarthy. How are you this morning?
Light headache, but not too bad.
Well, talk to us about yesterday, Dara, because I have to be honest, looking at you standing over the first free, there's jeers coming from the hill. Can you hear them?
I've heard a few lads saying how didn't you hear it, but you kind of block it out. But you hear a small bit, but you kind of have to of have to steal the mind there and just stick to your process there like you do in practice the whole time.
As a young fella coming into that final, there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders, man. How did you manage to handle it in the way that you did? Because it was just exemplary. 113 in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, I know. In fairness to all the management team and all the boys used to back me to the hills, like even after having a stinker on the freeze there in the semi-final or whatever, Liam just said, listen, you're the man or whatever, like, and he backed me to the hills, and that's credit to him, and that gave me so much confidence as well. And yeah, just stealing the mind there again and back to basics and practice and kind of got your way back into it again.
That kind of touches on something that Mikey Bevan said last night at the homecoming and the banquet about the connection between the squad, because you've all different ages and different groups and all coming together from different clubs. And Willie Connor's messing behind us here. He's welcome to come in and join us. I'm trying to get him since 7:30 this morning. But will you talk to me?
How are you going, Tommy? How are you going?
You legged it. You chased Dalton down the tunnel yesterday, but you legged it from me.
Yeah, sure. You're not as much daunting as he is, I suppose, in a way.
Oh, come here. Listen, lads, the two of you yesterday, unbelievable performances. Talk to me about what this man did for you yesterday on the field, because he had a serious job.
Sure, lads like him and Ron just take so much hits for the team, like just nearly ruining their whole game, try to ruin someone else's game, nearly just playing their part. And it's unbelievable. That's what teammates do, is look out for another and take their own game away to benefit for the team.
You really are a team, like you can see that. Obviously, after the fact, we can all look in and see it, but you've known it like you're a proper team.
It kind of really showed yesterday, I think, to be honest with you. It just there's a togetherness there now, and in fairness, maybe it hasn't been in Tip in the last 2 or 3 years, and there's no point lying about. But yesterday, kind of, I suppose, the complete performance nearly came to the fore, and it just happened on the day. And the likes of him, he got his redemption day, thank God. So we were delighted for him.
It's amazing. Like you're only 19, aren't you? You know, you're playing a schools final last March. Talking about redemption, look, and we were all kind of saying it there a little bit, you know, because the 2 red cards, like you were gutted after the one in Porky Queeve. Like you could see how upset you were. You know?
Listen, that's me. It's my own fault. I have no one else to blame but myself. But listen, you have to, like I said 2 or 3 times already, just steal the mind and just forget about it. When you have lads like this here beside you and the 39 other lads you have, you're in no better place.
Yeah. You've got McGrath in the corner and Jason Ford beside you in that full forward line. Like that's pretty special to be playing alongside those boys. When McGrath wins his penalty in such an expertly manner in that he does, like obviously he feels that brilliant ball, but there's a bit of genius there. There was no one else taking that penalty. Like you were on it, you were ready to go, weren't you?
Yeah, we had a conversation.
There was a debate before.
Yeah, there was a debate beforehand.
But it wasn't like the Chelsea players fighting over it.
Yeah, no, I was meant to be on the penalties. But actually just took the walls. So it's just the way it happened, I suppose. We felt on the wall.
Myself and J.O. said that. He said he was going to have a go, and I said, no, J.O., leave it to me.
But they can be big moments. Do you know, that's... like, that's the turn of the quarters. I know we're kind of laughing about it now, and it's a 15-second turnaround. Like, there's still big pressure, because you've turned the game, but you got to nail that moment.
Yeah, I kind of looked up at the scoreboard and I said, 3 up now. Go 3 here, we're up by 6 with a man up, like, we're in some position. So, kind of just... had to concentrate on that there a bit. No, J.O. said go for it. So he gave me the confidence there as well.
Lads, look, it's an unbelievable story. Like, you're on top of the world, All-Ireland champions, Tipperary. You know, there's All-Ireland medals in your dressing room already. You had one from before, didn't you? Like it, but you're chasing it for a long time after that. You mentioned the bond and the connection, and we know the depths of last year that it didn't click for you. When did you know it was happening this year, that you were motoring in the right direction?
It's actually... I think it was off the field. We made some effort to meet up and stuff. And we were all together nearly off the field, yeah. Okay. Like after training there could be 30 lads in a coffee shop all together, like.
But that has to be genuine as well, like you can't fake that.
That's not fake, like no, lads turn up there and they mean to be there, and like some lads might fake spending time with each other, but we genuinely want to spend time with each other, and that's what made a difference.
You look like you have something to say about
that. Not much now after that now. There, hit the nail on the head there. No, we're, like you said, it's great when we win. If we lose, we're not, and the cameras aren't here and whatnot, but it's fucking brilliant when we wins, and we'll enjoy it. That's it, Tommy, now, yeah.
I was talking to you about the tunnel earlier, but the dander was up. We see it all the time. Like, what happened there?
It was just, I think we were meant to go down first, and I suppose Declan being Declan, he's a thick man, and in fairness to him, he's a brilliant hurler. But he ploughed on through Tyler Walsh, and so we just followed down. And
But you need that in hurling too. Like it's a contact sport. Like you need that.
Kind of made the game, I suppose, in a way. And no, thankfully we got a hop off it, and that was it. But sure, hey, if Hoggy scores that free in the second half, you don't know what way they go 7 up, and. It can be a different game, but we were back in the game after 2 or 3 minutes, and that's it.
Well, lads, extraordinary story. You've so much time to enjoy it now and build on it from such a young team. I'm sure you're going to keep some of the older boys on as well, or maybe not. But that's up to themselves.
No, they won't be going anywhere. I was talking to Nolly there last night. He's going nowhere.
There you go. They're exclusive for Off the Ball. Dar McCarthy, congratulations. Willie Connors, congratulations. Fair play to you and Tipperary.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tommy Rooney there in conversation with the two lads. 0879 180 180 is our number for WhatsApps. One texter says, Tip were never as much underdogs as some thought. They lost one game all year. Cork drew with Clare, lost and effectively drew with Limerick, and had a stroll against Dublin. Then they went and played into Tip's hands tactically. They fed the monster by belting it on top of the Tip defence and by not twigging the sweeper. It gave an underestimated Tip side serious confidence. Hard on Cork, but they're not far off, to be fair, which I think is quite fair. However, John in Limerick says Cork collapsed into a shambles. I cannot see how that team can come back from this historic nadir. So those are the 2 points of view on it. We've got another text in here from another John telling us not to compare with Mayo. He says Mayo lost 2013, 2016 and 2017 by a point. Please don't say those Mayo teams were bottlers. I don't think we refer to them as bottlers. And also that's a story for another day.
Don't use that word. My goodness. Can I just say about Dar McCarthy, because there's a lot of conversation in recent months, years, about teaching children playing underage sport resilience in sport. And Dar McCarthy, his interviews have been amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this fella did his leaving cert last year. He's only gone into college, I think, in Limerick. But when you consider the publicity that was around him after the 2 sendings off, you know, there was social media littered with goons kind of slagging him off for crying after being sent off, all this kind of stuff. And I think when you listen to those interviews, and I thought he spoke, like, he just came off the pitch after winning the All-Ireland at 19 years of age, spoke to the RTE team, and his interview was amazing. Like, he just sounded so measured, so composed. Yeah. And the things he said, I think, about the family aspect of it, in that interview with our Tommy Rooney, and some of the stuff he said yesterday, I think that really gives you a great insight into what Liam Cahill has done with this Tipperary team. He's fostered that sense of family. And you see it in all the great winning teams in any sport. Like you saw with the Spain team winning the last European Championship, where the manager fosters that sense of family within the panel. And the way Dar McCarthy speaks about the 2 occasions when he was sent off, and the next day his teammates were ringing him up, going for a cup of coffee, putting an arm around him. Yeah. It's just brilliant. And his reaction, I think, yesterday to all that stuff that went on the last couple of months is incredible.
It was unbelievable. 113, what an incredible response. Just because I know we're out of time, we haven't mentioned Ronan Marr, who talk about it's like being overshadowed by a big brother for your whole career and stepping up. He's been an unbelievable player for years, but the job he did yesterday was unbelievable. I thought deserved man of the match, I would say, and we've heard from 2 people who were who were in for it as well. But his speech I thought was brilliant. We've had some really, really good All-Ireland speeches in the last couple of years, and it's funny, it's like people are praising him for the Dylan Quirk stuff, and I think bringing it up, I think it's obvious and it was expected in a way, but just the words he used and how he delivered it and everything like that, I just thought was a really, really important moment. Was. And when you're watching these things, and sometimes you want a team to win or you want a team to lose, and then you hear something like that, and suddenly you're feeling that inside in a very different way than who you want to win or lose sports match.
It was special, and then Liam Cahill's reaction to that, and even the way Liam Sheedy spoke on the panel afterwards was really, really special. There was so many other things that we just haven't mentioned here. Just very quickly, just on the coverage beforehand, I was flicking between BBC and RTE, and they had their celebrity panel on the BBC. They had Rachel Blackmore, they had Paul Mescal, and then they had Tom Grennan, and I was like, what on earth is Tom Grennan doing here? And then his dad pops out, the most Irish man of all time in an Offaly jersey with the thickest Offaly accent I've ever heard. He was brilliant. Marty beforehand dropping that Portrush stat. I was like, where who came up with that statistic? Where did you actually do the research for that? And as it's turned out, because Tipperary have won, the Portrush stat has been circulated far and wide since full time yesterday. yesterday. The 5-minute delay we haven't spoken about. I mean, do we need to be pushing back the presidential introduction by 5 minutes or pushing forward by 5 minutes? Given like we dedicated some time talking about the parade last week. The parade was just a little bit delayed this week. And also, Jarlath's speech. I mean, I never thought that I'd see a GAA president standing up there saying, "You are the cake" to the people of Croke Park. Thought it was a brilliant speech. His line about the Hogan stand is phenomenal. Obviously, he thinks
Roland
about
Maher loved that bit. Did you see him? When he mentioned about the Hogan stand, you could see Roland Maher and this go, yeah.
Oh, did he? I missed that. The one thing that I did twig at that point is that he's got a similarly brilliant speech written for Cork that he just doesn't use. And I'd love to see his list of unused speeches, because the ones that we have heard are largely brilliant. And then the other thing, which I think we need to give him credit for, is Rhys Shelley. What's with the face guard? He can't see. He cannot see, and he's won an All-Star with no eyes whatsoever. Yeah. So I think he deserves extra credit.
Saved the penalty and scored a point yesterday.
And he had no idea what he was doing.
And Noel McGrath's point a little bit like Alan Brogan scoring that point against Kerry in the All-Ireland final 2015, wasn't it?
Thank you, Stevo. That's you brought this down to
no football till tomorrow.
No football till tomorrow. We're talking about the greatest sport in the world, Stevo. Right, our number, just to remind you again, is 0879 180 180. This is the Newsround. We'll be back with Stevo's stories of the day right after these.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
Join Gomo today and get 1 month free. With Gomo, you get all calls, texts, all 5G data for just $14.99 a month for life. Switching is easy. Visit gomo.ie, sign up, and you are good to Gomo. So what are you waiting for? Join Gomo and get 1 month free. Hurry, offer ends soon. Unlimited data refers to domestic use only. 30-day contract applies. A once-off SIM activation fee of $14.99 applies. For full details, terms, roaming and text fair use, see gomo.ie.
The Galway races. No replays, no second chances. Be there when it happens. Where silks flash and hooves thunder. Where every second counts and dreams can tear the odds asunder. Where the ground shakes and the crowd cheers. You'll remember this for years. Galway races. Monday, July 28th to Sunday, August 3rd. Don't just hear about it. Experience it.
The John Taylor Summer Sale is now on. Up to 50% off our superb collection of your favourite brands. Strelson, Calvin Klein, Eden Park, Bugatti, Paul & Shark, Tommy Hilfiger and many more. Choose from our huge range of casual jackets. All at great sale prices. John Taylor Menswear, 34 Upper Bagot Street, Dublin 4.
Why do businesses join Guaranteed Irish? Because Guaranteed Irish is the national symbol of trust for all businesses based here. They join to effect positive change in their communities. And they create quality jobs and sustainable local supply chains. So look out for the G, making businesses in Ireland altogether better.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
You're welcome back. We're going to be returning to the hurling shortly enough. We'll be hearing from Len Gaynor and then Richie Hogan's up after 8 o'clock, but we should go through some of the rest of the day's news. So, Stevo, Evan Ferguson moved to Roma, but Fabian Hertzler's been speaking today.
Yes, well, the Seagulls boss Hertzler insists that Ferguson can still have a future at the club. The Republic of Ireland international landed in Italy last night ahead of completing his loan move to Roma. The Meath man, in scenes reminiscent of Maradona's arrival at Napoli, was met at the airport by a huge crowd of Roma supporters chanting his name.
I wasn't really listening there.
No, I jest. He'll join the Serie A club for the coming season, with Roma holding an option to make the transfer permanent. Hertzler, though, believes that with the experience gained with more game time, Ferguson can be an important player for the Seagulls.
Yeah, for us it's always important that the individual players here have the environment where they can develop, and we decided that the loan for Evan might be the best option. So he's still a player from us. He still brings a lot of quality with him. He's a target player, and I'm sure if he gets more game time, that one day he will come back and will be a very important player for us.
Hate to break it to you, That does not sound like a manager who is massively on the Evan Ferguson bandwagon, I must say.
He's proved he can score goals in the Premier League. So, you know, why would you send him off on loan? It's not like he's a developing player. No, I just don't think he fancies him. Everything he said about him over the last year or so, no, don't believe him.
Very boilerplate answer there from Hertzler, I think it's fair to say.
What do we think of this move?
I think it could be good. Gasparini's the coach now at Roma. He's proved to be a good coach of younger players. He's had players under him scoring goals. Like, there's obviously a lot more pressure at a club like Roma for him to get results quickly. But I think he could be good for Ferguson. I think Ferguson can score goals in Serie A, I really do. So, like, if he gets 20-odd goals and gets his confidence up, could be a good move.
Now, the Liverpool spending spree continue this afternoon. Which Bundesliga player have they signed?
Yeah, the Premier League champions took their summer spending to nearly €345 million after agreeing to pay €80 million with the possibility of another €11 million in add-ons for Hugo Ekitike. The former France under-21 international was switched from Eintracht Frankfurt, having agreed to a 6-year deal in principle. He's due on Merseyside tomorrow for a medical ahead of the deal being confirmed. Ekitike scored 22 goals and made 12 assists in all competitions last season. His first in the Bundesliga as Eintracht qualified for the Champions League. Ekitike will link up with other new arrivals such as Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong and Milos Kerkez on the club's Hong Kong and Japan tour this week.
Now then, Mikel Arteta has been asked about Thomas Partey.
Yeah, he says they 100% followed the right processes with former midfielder Thomas Partey. Partey was charged over multiple counts of rape and sexual assault earlier this month, but continued playing for the Londoners while investigations were ongoing. The 32-year-old, who denies the charges, left the club following the expiration of his contract last month. Arteta addressed the situation while on the club's pre-season tour in Singapore.
Well, I think the club was very clear in its statement. There are a lot of legal matters that are very complicated, so I cannot comment on any of them.
I appreciate that, but a lot of fans have questions over the way in which the matter was handled by the club. Do you feel confident and comfortable that the club followed all the right processes in that?
100%, yeah.
Hard to know, what to kind of make of that, because it feels just complete circling of the wagons from Arsenal and from Mikel Arteta here. I hope he continues to get asked about this, because it does feel as if this was dealt with horribly by the club and is like a really bad indictment of Arsenal, what's happened here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I suppose, without having any information, I think a lot of people knew who the unnamed footballer was for quite a while, and it's been an uncomfortable thing not to be able to talk about as we kind of cover massive Premier League and Champions League games, and even the semi-final tactic very much involving this player,
star player in a Champions League semi-final.
It was, you obviously have to talk about it for what it is, but the idea that Arsenal can just wash their hands of this and say we weren't able to we had to keep him as a centre point in our season and it was nothing to do with football or wanting to win, I think it's just a little bit, I think it's tough to swallow. It's impossible to believe, because for no other reason than there was reporting in April of this year that the club were in negotiations, or had at least opened negotiations with Thomas Partey over a new contract. They've known about this for a long, long time. It didn't come to pass, and maybe they were wary of all this situation, and that's why I'm not saying that they were completely heartless or anything like that. We don't know anything about any of that stuff, but they were in negotiations with this man to renew his contract.
Yeah, they also have a duty of care for other staff and people at the club as well. So it goes against a lot of the values that they have up on their website. You can go and have a look at that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They did also get rid of the academy kit man earlier this year, Mark Bonnick. He showed social solidarity, I should say, in social media posts with the people of Palestine, and was kicked out of the club. He's going through a process at the moment in the I think it's the work relations courts there in the UK. So I don't know.
Neither a great representation of Arsenal Football Club, I think it's fair to say. So the UEFA third round qualifying draws were made today. We've got some news from the Irish clubs.
Humdinger for St Patrick's Athletic. They've been given a tough draw in the third qualifying round. If they get past Kalju from Estonia in round 2, they'll face either Shakhtar Donetsk or Besiktas. The Turkish club, of course, now managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It would be an interesting tie if that was to become or to develop into the tie in the third round. Shamrock Rovers are going to take on Balkany of Kosovo or Malta's Floriana if they overcome St Joseph's from Gibraltar, and Romanian side FCSB or Macedonian outfit Skandia await Shelbourne if they can get past Karabag in the Champions League second round.
We have some Irish players involved in tomorrow's midweek Lions team.
Yeah, having received late call-ups to the Lions squad, both Jamie Osborne and Thomas Clarkson are included in the matchday squad to play. Osborne, one of 4 Irish starters to take on the First Nations and Pacifica side. The others are Finlay Beelum, James Ryan and Josh van der Fleer, while Clarkson's on the bench with the fit again, Gary Ringrose. Joe McCarthy and Matt Hansen are doubts for the second test against Australia on Saturday. Both players are managing foot injuries and sat out training in Melbourne earlier today. The Lions assistant coach Simon Easterby believes it's clear and obvious why Owen Farrell's been selected to captain the side tomorrow. The fly half will lead the team in his maiden start of the tour. Easterby feels Farrell's experience is invaluable to the younger members of the squad.
You look at the team and the experience that he has in that. I think it's pretty clear and obvious why he's the skipper. What he's brought already to the group since he's arrived has been brilliant. Like, you know, younger guys are feeding off him. His wealth of experience, but also his knowledge and his ability to impass that on others has shone through over the last couple of weeks, and certainly no better man to lead this team tomorrow against the First Nations team.
Kind of exciting to see Jamie Osborne line up alongside Owen Farrell in the midfield. I mean, if we're being realistic about the Australian performance on Saturday, there's something more exciting about watching this team tomorrow. And the really mishmash nature of some of the combinations tomorrow, whereas we kind of know the test team at this point. And maybe do we know that this is going to be a test win or a series win for the Lions anyway?
Well, it feels like it, I suppose.
But what I've just said there equals man trying to drum up interest about Lions too. I accept that.
I always find midweek games and like sometimes more interesting in terms of like interesting combinations and a different team and guys who are still on tour who aren't going to be there for the main games and so on. I do feel like we've got a new level of call up. Like there's guys who've only just arrived who are playing tomorrow. It does feel like do we really need this amount of players? Can players not play from the bench or? There's 23 players used. There was nearly a 40-man squad initially. I don't know. It's feeling a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah. No.
This is not the first time I've said that sentence about this tour.
Jack Flynn's been in touch. Hi lads, great show as always. Just a few comments on the hurling. I've been watching hurling since the 1960s, go to loads of games. This Cork team has loads of potential, but they are overrated at present. Hammered by Limerick and Munster, and then very lucky to beat them in the Munster final. Then beat a poor Dublin team and totally underestimated Tipperary. They are living on the reputation that Cork have. Good talent, but watching to go yet. Also, the media hype them up as well because it brings a buzz to the GAA, a bit like the Dubs. There's probably a bit of truth in that last thing. I think it's probably good for the GAA to have a good Cork. It's good for the GAA to have a good Dublin. And maybe we automatically fall into hyping them as part of this machine because just such a huge, colourful thing that they are.
You're dead right, and so is Jack, but there's also the fact that there's never been this. They scored 7 goals in the All-Ireland semi-final. They've scored a heap of goals all the way through the year. When they hit, they're an incredibly exciting hurling team to watch.
Yeah.
I think that's important as well.
Can we do the golf, Stevo, as a final story here? Scotty Scheffler speaking about the motivation to win a career Grand Slam.
Yeah, his quote was, "It would be very cool, but that's not what motivates me at the end of the day." Scheffler won the Open by 4 strokes and now just needs to win the US Open to complete the career Grand Slam. Shane Lowry, meanwhile, has dropped one place to 19th in the official world golf rankings. The Offaly man finished the Open Championship with a final round of 66 to finish on 2 under par. And in a tie for 40th, the top 2 in the world remain the same, with Rory McIlroy behind the number 1, Scotty Scheffler.
The comparisons are pretty glowing now for Scotty Scheffler, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger. The greatest of the greats is where Scotty Scheffler is now being ranked on the back of reaching this milestone in his career at this stage in his career. The one thing is just the idea that he doesn't transcend the sport, as Jordan Spieth himself said yesterday. And golf fans are going to have to kind of wrestle with this now, where there is this truly great player who is the best player of his generation, who could become one of the top 4 or 5 all-time greats, while also accepting that what he's going to give you in terms of his personality is going to be very limited.
Yeah. I wonder if he keeps winning 2 majors a year, does that just disappear and he becomes like one of like the main sports people in America? You know, like just by dint of his success alone. I wonder, like, he has a much higher bar than almost anybody else at that level because of his, just sheer lack of personality.
Was that similar with Jordan Spieth?
Listen to some of his comments this week, though. Like, his lack of personality might be a very healthy thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know if we should always deride it, like, you know.
And it's not really so much a lack of personality. Like, I think he like the stuff he was saying last week about the importance of golf is fascinating. It's more the idea
star power.
Star power, that's it. And bringing a little bit of pizzazz. It's just not something that Scotty Scheffler has whatsoever. But that in itself might become more fascinating as the years go by, or at least we'll find some ways to be interested by it. Right, the news round has been with you with thanks to UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action. Back in a few.
The news round on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
This week on the Alive and Kicking podcast, why don't we talk more about incontinence? Well, this week on the show, I'll be taking it from the taboo with Dr. Bobby O'Leary.
There's this huge condition that, as I say, pervades every aspect of their life, and they have no way to talk about it, no way to get help for it, or so they feel there's no way to get help.
Catch the Alive and Kicking podcast at newstalk.com or in the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud.
Conversation that counts.
This July, the 153rd Open Championship returns to Royal Portrush, Northern Ireland, a land made for golf. Play to your best or swing slow and easy at over 90 world-class championship links, parkland and resort courses. Stay in historic castles, award-winning resorts or sophisticated city hotels while chipping into the 19th hole for local food, drink and crack. This land made for golf has great value stay and play packages made for you. Book yours at discovernorthernireland.com.
Think of a catchphrase that embodies